So you get the call, the seller wants to back out. They don't want to sell the house anymore. What do you do?
It depends. It depends on where you are in the contract. If you are a buyer and you have in California and you have an accepted offer from a seller, the seller cannot back out of that contract unless you as a buyer don't perform. If you, like, for example, if you haven't done something in the time frame that you promised you would do it, for example, say, oh, I'll remove my inspection contingency in 5 days, and it's day 6, and you haven't removed that contingency, then depending on how the contract is set up, by default, it's called an active removal versus a passive. An active removal just means that seller has to say, hey, you said day 5 you would remove this contingency, and it's day 6 you haven't. So I'm giving you between 24 or 48 hours, whatever the contract stipulates, to remove that contingency. Otherwise, I will cancel. So that's what they call an active removal, meaning that, hey, you have to sign saying, I'm the buyer and I'm now signing that I remove that contingency. And if I don't sign that removal, I can have something that's signed by the seller, which says it's a notice to perform removing that contingency. You got to move, dude, you got to remove that. You got to take that, Mr. Buyer, and you have to remove that contingency like you said you were. Otherwise, I'm going to cancel. So that's the only time a seller can really cancel. The contracts at present, 2024, April 2024, where we are now, it is a active removal of contingencies, and the passive removal will mean that, hey, after day 5, it's considered removed.
Yeah.
It's done. Yeah. But that's the contract is not like that at present.
And what about that's the inspection contingency? What about the appraisal or the financing contingency?
Yeah, same thing. It really fill in the blank on the things we had talked about in some of the other interviews that we did about reasons to back out of the contract. Quickly, what they are for a buyer, most common ones and the usual standard ones are your loan, your appraisal, your inspection, your title search, your seller disclosure review, and a 6th one. If you're in an HOA, you get to review the documentation of the HOA. Any of those things, each of those have a time frame that is in the contract. At present, the standard California purchase contract stipulates that there's a 21-day removal for loan, and you can make those shorter. You can say, hey, I'll remove it in 10 days just to make your offer attractive, which is often the case where you want to make your offer look attractive because there's a lot of buyers for a small amount of homes and that are for sale. And that is where all you want to do is make sure you're performing on time, unless there's something that comes up. For example, in an inspection, we've all had this. I know you have, where it's okay. We do our inspection, but there's the roof really needs to be looked at, and the foundation needs to be checked out. Maybe it's a heavier fixer than normal, and the buyer got a really good deal on it, or they just love the property and they know that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. They've set aside a certain amount to take care of those things, but they want to have, again, clarity as to their options of what is wrong with that roof and what is it going to cost, and is there anything else that has been affected because of that? Is there mold? Is there something that needs to be rebuilt completely, restabilized? All that stuff could take a few extra days, and if you're trying to coordinate that, and you're trying to coordinate maybe a foundation inspection, maybe you're trying to coordinate a plumbing inspection, because you should always take a little extra time when you do that home inspection. The regular home inspector should be there, but also if you're buying a house, always have a plumber come out to camera the line between the actual house and the city sewer system if it's not hooked up to septic. So you just say, hey, run that line in there, make sure that there's no roots in that line. This type of thing that all buyers should know, and all good agents should be telling that their buyers. But that might take a while, and you have to extend that contingency, Charlie, is what would happen. Saying, okay, well, I said I would remove it in 10 days, but it's day 8 and we don't have clarity on the foundation. They want to have, we had somebody that was an expert, but they said, we want to have an engineer look at it just to see what they say. This is what we have in mind, but let's have an engineer come out and look at it. And then engineer's a week out from coming out. So yeah, at that point you're saying, hey, may I please extend this contingency? And at that point, the seller can say yes or no.
And that's where having a good agent that can negotiate with the listing agent and the seller makes a big difference. And that's where having a good agent that has a good team of people that can put you first in line really makes a big difference. That the difference between 7 days and 5 days could make the difference between not getting it done and getting it done.
Yeah, that A+ provider list of service providers is just invaluable. Most agents that have been in the business a while, they've went through the wars of find the best people in each business, and they have relationships. And that alone, we always joke about this book. It's God, there's so much involved in this. It's like that alone is so valuable for a real estate agent. All the contacts, like for a buyer, especially all that's going on right now. It's we don't know what's going to happen. Nobody really knows. Next year and a half is going to be chaotic with depending on if this rule goes through, and it's a new thing that we have to encompass. But what's the value of a buyer's agent? Well, a list as long as my arm, but one of them being their contacts, the people that they know that can help you as a buyer during your investigation process to make sure that the property you're purchasing is something that's worth purchasing.
Yeah. I really like how you called it an investigation process, like even more than an inspection, because it is an investigation. Like you want to see, am I getting the house that I think I'm getting, that I'm prepared to pay for, the money that I've got in the bank? Is this the right house for me, more than just it looks pretty?
100%. It's in California, it's always buyer beware. Even though they have a lot of protections, it's I look at what the seller discloses in terms of the home disclosure about anything that was an insurance item or things that they repaired or replaced. I rely on those, but sometimes there's things that they honestly just forget about, like they're not trying to be devious. Some are. So you just have to go and do that investigation and see, is this trust what they say, then verify it.
Yeah. And so in California, and that's the reason you need a local real estate expert, because each county, each city, each area does have different rules. California has different customs than here in Nashville, Tennessee. We don't have the standard 17 or 21 day. And why that's important is the reason we say, hey, look, we've got the contract locked down, we've got the house locked down, is as a buyer, once you get it under contract, the seller can't back out as long as you perform. And so you just need an agent that knows the rules so that they can tell you what you need to do to make sure you perform, so they don't kick you out if they get a higher offer later.
That's the whole thing. And really what I always tell every single buyer I work with, before and after they get their offer accepted, but it's okay. Let's say they get their offer and it was $1 million purchase price. Okay, you know what? Doesn't matter if someone comes in there and gives them $1,300,000 tomorrow. You have an accepted offer. They cannot back out of your offer unless you don't perform.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome. I think the next chapter that we're going to talk about is value range pricing, which again goes to the locality of California. And so we'll talk about that in a future video. And so if you're in California looking to buy a home, reach out to Brad. What's your phone number?
It's 858-225-7385.
And he actually likes to talk on the phone. You can text him as well.
Yeah, for anyone that needs help, I specialize here in San Diego, but if you're elsewhere and you need to be referred to a good agent, like my friend Charlie here from Nashville, Tennessee, anyone looking to buy or sell real estate there, I know a great realtor. But yeah, anyway, that's the scoop.
Yeah, it's cool. Well, we should talk. I'm actually working with one of your really good friends right now that you referred to me, that's moving to Nashville, and he's a buyer. And so we've actually been doing all of this, making sure all the contingencies work. Right now, we're working together in that way. So that's super, super cool.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because Charlie and I are pretty anti-theory agents, where we're more about action, and this is what's really happening. Hey, this is how this works. This is what's the reality is, and how it actually works, and how it applies to you, and actually doing it. Sell real estate.
That's what we do. Awesome. I can't wait for the next video. Until next time. Bye.
All right. Thank you.